All right. Thanks for joining us today, everyone. Happy Friday. I'm Andrew Sorensen. I'm a spokesperson here at CU Boulder. I'll be moderating today's call. Staff Council represents the interests of our campus's staff by advocating on a variety of issues and policies and serving in an advisory role to administration. You can find out more and get involved by visiting colorado.edu/staff council. Some quick housekeeping items before we get into the meat of today's session. We're going to open our event today with a welcome from Jasmine Evans and Anna Martin on behalf of Staff Council. We're then going to hear briefly from Chief Operating Officer Patrick O'Rourke and Provost Russell Moore before we get into questions. If you have a question for the experts on today's webinar, please use that Q&A function at the bottom of your screen to submit a question. You can start doing that at any time. We'll do our best to get to all questions. If we do not get to your question, you can follow up with Staff Council leadership after this webinar. If by chance we run out of questions prior to the scheduled end of the webinar, we will end early. And as a reminder, today's call will be recorded, and that recording, I believe, is going to be available on the Staff Council website. Now I'll turn it over to Jasmine to get us started.
Awesome. Thank you, Andrew. Welcome, everyone, and thank you so much for joining our end of semester town hall. Like Andrew said, my name is Jasmine Evans, and I have the pleasure of serving as one of the chairs of Staff Council. Staff Council is here to help improve the staff experience and be the voice for CU Boulder's over 4,000 staff members. We meet directly with campus leadership as well as CU system and Colorado State leadership to voice your concerns and to help guide policy on campus. One way we're amplifying the staff voice is to host events like these. We're thankful for our campus leadership for prioritizing a staff-focused town hall before break. I'll hand it over to Anna Martin to give more context for today's town hall.
Sorry, having a little trouble with my video today. Thank you, Jasmine. Again, my name is Anna Martin, and I serve as another chair for Staff Council. Staff Council and campus leadership felt like this would be a fitting moment to reflect on this fall semester and prepare for the upcoming spring. We want to thank Provost Russ Moore and COO Pat O'Rourke for taking time to be with us today to engage with CU Boulder staff in a candid way. Provost Moore and COO O'Rourke will share opening remarks, answer some prepared questions, and then we'll open the floor to you for questions. You can add those questions to the chat box below, or if you're watching from the case building, you can ask our other Staff Council chair, Kelsey Draper, or the room proctor to send in the question for you. Last, we would like to extend a really special thanks to our Staff Council administrator, Strategic Relations for helping us quickly organize this town hall, our deputy CHRO, and other support staff that made this event possible. With that said, thank you again for being part of this conversation, and we will now hear from our COO, Pat O'Rourke.
So, hi everybody. Wanted to thank all of you for joining us today and to thank Andrew, Jasmine, and Anna for bringing us together. It took me a little bit more than 2 hours to get to campus this morning from my house. And so one of the things I'm recognizing is that it's great to have tools like Zoom on days like today to make it a little bit easier for us to get together. But I also wanted to take a moment right up front to thank the people who do the work outside to be able to keep the campus safe and to be able to keep us operating even in the times when it's challenging outside. So thank you very much for being able to do that. I also wanted to thank all the staff on the call for all the hard work and dedication that you've displayed all semester long. And right up front, I want to acknowledge that it's been a hard semester at times. We've had people who have been working in ways that they've never been asked before to support our students, our faculty, and our other staff. And I'm incredibly proud that we were able to support students in their learning throughout the semester. We made it through without having to change modalities. We were able to make sure that we kept all of our crucial operations going. And so many parents and students have thanked us for being here. And that has happened because of you. a year ago, we were having a much different conversation because COVID was in a much different place. And what the good news is that we've had good campus strategies throughout the course of the semester that have allowed us to be able to respond to COVID. I know that there's questions about the Omicron variant out there, and our science team is working to be able to answer those questions about what they will mean for our community. But one of the things that I'm really grateful for is the way that all of you have responded to our efforts to make sure that we have a safe environment on campus and a vaccinated population. Currently, we've got well over 90% of, actually 95.6% of the people who responded to our vaccination reporting requirement are reporting that they've been vaccinated. And that's also true similarly on the student side. So we have one of the most highly vaccinated community, and that's actually helped us to be able to keep the case numbers on campus down throughout the semester. We are, though, some of you have received communications that we needed you to renew your vaccination reporting because of some requirements that we had coming from the administration. And please do that. We want to make sure that people don't lose eligibility for salary increases or be able to maintain the continuity of their employment. So if you've received a notification that you need to update your reporting, please do that before we reach the end of the month. Going into the spring semester, so far our science team isn't recommending much in the way of changes. We don't think that we're going to need to change our operating modalities, but that we'll probably be keeping our masking requirement in place for the foreseeable future, just because it's protective of our community. As the cases go down, we'll be able to evaluate that throughout the course of the spring and make the changes that we need to make as the circumstances allow. But for now, it's probably going to be much where we're staying on the same course. Some good news coming into the spring is that the Board of Regents a month ago approved us having a 3% base building compensation increase. I'm really grateful to the Board of Regents, President Solomon and Chancellor DeStefano for all the work that they did to support that. We didn't think we were going to be able to do base building increases this year because we had provided revenue targets to the Board of Regents that we would need to meet in order to be able to fund salary increases. And although we came in slightly ahead of what our projections were, we weren't at the level where we thought we were going to be able to get those base building increases. But it was important to President Solomon, important to the board, and they worked on some of the ways in which we fund ICCA down at the system to help us to be able to afford base building increases. So I'm very grateful for that, as well as the fact that we're also going to be able to give people an additional 1% of one-time pay in January. We've also been able to create a 1% targeted retention pool. And so that's really good news on the compensation front. But we recognize that we still have work to do and that we're in an extraordinarily competitive compensation environment. We're going to keep working to be able to identify where we can continue to meet our compensation needs better. But wanted to be able to share with you again my thanks for the fact that we are going to be able to provide those salary increases coming into the spring. One of the other things that we're going to be doing is some of you will be receiving notifications fairly soon that you may be receiving a salary adjustment because of our work to be able to comply with the Equal Pay for Equal Work Act. And that those are adjustments that are going to be taking place in January for both faculty and staff. The goal of that has been able to identify people who have been inequitably compensated because of either their gender or their race. And there's been a hugely tremendous amount of work that's been done by our HR department and people across the campus to be able to analyze where people work, what their compensation has been, and whether or not there's any a basis for us to understand that they haven't been equitably compensated because of either factors like gender or race. This analysis doesn't address salaries generally and things like how our salaries compare to the private employment market, We know that we have additional work to do to be able to do that, but we're going to be doing that work over time. But the work that's been done to be able to get us to the point where we'll be able to remedy some of the inequities that have been revealed through the Equal Pay Act analysis is overdue and greatly appreciated by me and for the work that's been done by so many people to get us there. I've been asked some questions about what's it going to look like in the spring and what's the future of our work environment. And one of the things that's important is we've had a future of work committee that's been looking at that for the last several months. And they're really trying to define what our different work modalities are, whether it's people who are in person because their jobs really need them to be on campus and providing a service. A good portion of our population will probably be hybrid, where they're on campus part of the time and remote part of the time. And then there will be some smaller group of people who are fully remote. What we're doing is trying to define what people fall into those categories and to have recommendations about how to best implement it. Been asked some questions about like, well, is there going to be a date when everybody's going to be required to come back to campus? And the answer is probably not. We're still going to be doing this on really a unit by unit basis, having supervisors trying to be able to figure out what is going to best support the needs of a particular unit and the mission of the university. And so we want to be able to try to provide that flexibility rather than trying to come up with one size fits all solutions. There'll be more guidance coming out about that, but we need your feedback about how we create a good working environment that supports our employees as well as supports the mission of the university, allows us to be able to make sure that the students have a good experience and that we're supporting the research that changes so many lives across not only Colorado, but the nation. And then finally, the last thing I wanted to mention in these early remarks is I wanted to thank everybody who participated in the culture survey. The staff participation in the culture survey was 71%, which is a really extraordinary number. And I'm grateful for everybody who took the time to fill that out. The feedback that we get from that will allow us to be able to figure out, hopefully, some places where we're doing well, but more importantly, to be able to identify those places where we have work to do and what we can do to make the experience of people who work at the University of Colorado better, and to be able to create a culture that is supportive of our mission and our goals. It's going to take us several months to be able to analyze the data and give us the results, but this really is a crucial tool in being able to make the university a better, more equitable, and more just place. So thank you to everybody who took the time to do that. With that, I would kick it over to Provost Moore for him to provide some comments. And then I'm really looking forward to chatting with you and answering the questions that you might have, because this is our opportunity to be able to communicate with you, not just at you. So please do put comments in and we'd be happy to chat.
Thanks, Pat. I just have a few short updates for the group before we move into the Q&A section. First, here's some updates on Academic Affairs Division searches. We are in the process of searching for a new dean of the College of Engineering. So Scott Adler, the dean of our graduate school, is chairing that search. Scott's working with Casey Kipple, our executive search lead from HR, and a really great tip of the hat to that team that they really provided exquisite candidate care. So I want to thank the team for doing that. The engineering dean position was posted in November, so right now we're in a silent phase. We are seeing a lot of great applications and nominations coming in, so we're encouraged by that. And the committee will begin reviewing applicants right at the beginning of the new year. We also have another dean search ongoing. That's the search for the dean of the College of Arts and Sciences, and that's in a similar quiet phase. So people are beginning to apply and we're receiving nominations. Dean Sharon Matusik from the Leeds School of Business is chairing the search, and things are moving along quite well. The committee should begin reviewing applicants very, very soon, perhaps even before the new year. I hope that you saw last week I named Dion Bergeron to the acting role as the Associate Vice Provost for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, and to be our leader of Odyssey. As you know, Bob Boswell is retiring, and So we wish him well in retirement. He's not gone yet. And Dion will be working with Sonia DeLuca Fernandez, our Senior Vice Chancellor, and other campus partners to carry out the mission of Odyssey. I think all of you will really enjoy working with Dion and the great team in Odyssey, and I'm confident that she'll provide us with skilled and visionary leadership for an office that's vital to all of our DEI efforts. And finally, before we get into the Q&A, I really want to express my gratitude to all CU staff and faculty who may be joining us today, and for all that you've done this semester and before to keep our students engaged and making progress. And for keeping our research mission going steady. In fact, it's actually booming. So thanks to all of you for that. I've always operated on the premise that no one on campus is more important than anyone else, and we can't do what we need to do and address the mission of the university without a really, really great staff. We're hoping to finish the fall semester strong, and it looks like all signals are good on that one. And we're grateful to everyone for your support in getting us to the finish line. And we're ready for spring and expecting that progress to continue. Most of spring 2022 classes are scheduled to be delivered in person. I think around 90% of those classes, a small amount in hybrid format, and then a few online. And tremendous thanks are due to the academic departments, programs, colleges, and schools, and the faculty and other instructional personnel and staff who've made this commitment to in-person teaching possible. So I won't chew up any more time, and let me turn things back over to Andrew so we can get into the Q&A session.
Thank you, Provost Moore. Thank you, CEO O'Rourke, and thank you, Jasmine and Anna, for all of your opening remarks. At this time, Jasmine and Anna are going to start us off with a few initial questions for our panelists. Again, if you have a question, you can insert it in that Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. Anna, do you want to go first?
Sure, I'll go first. This question is for Pat. Regarding the strategic investments that we will be informed about, what process was undertaken to arrive at CU Boulder's investment priorities for its share of these dollars?
So thanks, Anna. And I probably should have mentioned this off the top, which is today there was an announcement that came out of the System Administration Office that is based upon some investment returns that we've been able to realize. The university has a treasury pool, and they've invested that in the market. Last year, there was a really extraordinary rate of return that we were able to realize, about 3 times more than normal. And what that's resulted in is that across the CU system, there are several $100 million that we are able to use in order to be able to address campus strategic needs. And that's great. But they're also in the neighborhood of one-time funds because we can't depend upon those results being there year over year. And almost certainly they wouldn't be. So what we tried to do and be able to present to the Board of Regents and to President Solomon were things that fit into the strategic plan that had been developed by the system to be able to address the pillars that have been identified as crucial for CU success. Those include things like student success. So there's funds there to be able to buy down current debt that contributes to student fees, which will result in their overall burden of attending CU being lessened, to allow us to be able to increase our diversity, equity, inclusion on campus through the FDAP program for faculty, to be able to look for programs that will allow us to be able to increase the diversity of our staff recruiting, to be able to invest in mental health across campus, and to be able to do things like create scholarship programs to be able to serve first-generation students and be able to make a University of Colorado education available more broadly. One of the questions we may get, though, is, well, how does that reflect in things like compensation? Or is that going to result in us being able to hire new people? And a lot of times the answer to that question is probably not, because when you have compensation increases, those aren't in the neighborhood of one-time funds, because we have to make sure that we can sustain that compensation over time. Similarly, if we want to hire people, we want to make sure that we have sufficient ongoing revenues to be able to support what they do. And so we're really looking for those places where we can make the one-time investments and then also be able to use our ongoing budget more effectively to be able to support our faculty, students, and staff in those areas where we know we have to continue to invest over time.
Awesome. Thank you so much for walking us through that, Pat, because those are a lot of moving pieces. We're looking forward to hearing more. So this question is both for Pat and Russ. Maybe we'll have Russ start us off this time. How do you hope to continue to foster well-being, retention, and recognition of staff across campus? Russ?
Yeah, so that's a high priority. Staff retention and faculty retention, well, and student retention for that matter, are all really important. A number of things that we have been doing over the last few years and will continue to do is invest in certainly our wellness programs, including our mental health services on campus. And so that's critically important. And I know we've all been through, it's almost 2 years now. It's amazing to think we've been in this pandemic and endemic mode now for such a long period of time. One of the things we're also trying to focus in the realm of wellness is to do our best to provide compensation to faculty and staff, particularly those on the lower end of the salary levels, so that they can at least have some of those stresses alleviated somewhat, and in some cases maybe eliminated, but certainly our focus is on alleviating that. And the other one is in the realm of wellness is to, as Pat alluded to earlier, we're really trying to focus on providing the best workplace modalities for our staff, and primarily our staff, so that they can balance that work-life balance and address their job duties and their family duties and outside duties most effectively. So we're trying to find the right mix on that. And I really applaud HR. They're coming up with some definitions for what constitutes truly remote work, hybrid work, and then face-to-face work. I think we're all familiar with that. And in all of that, we're really trying to promote an ethos where people are taking care of themselves first and then taking care of each other second. And that means starting at the leadership level, taking time. I mean, I know our staff are chronic overachievers, and a lot of times they just work and work and work, and sometimes that's not the most healthy thing. So we do encourage people to take their vacation time. Particularly over the last 2 or 3 years, there's been a shocking amount of vacation time that's not taken. So we encourage people to do that and to try to promote a workplace where people don't look askance at folks who do take their vacation time. So those are just a few of the things that we're trying to do to promote wellness, which hopefully would translate into better retention of our staff. And that's absolutely critical. So salaries, focus on wellness and mental well-being.
So I'll jump into, and everything that Russ said, I could just say ditto. But I'm not just going to ditto it, because there's a few other things. One of the things we need to do is, you're seeing it today, which is it's important for us to communicate well with our staff. To make sure that we understand what your concerns are. So creating the opportunities for people like me and Russ to be able to come and hear your concerns so that we can be in a position to work with our teams to respond to them is part of what we need to do. But if we're really going to promote wellness across the campus, we can't just be thinking about it in terms of, well, we did this particular thing, because the things help. But we also have to create a real culture on campus that is supportive of our staff, to be able to make sure that their voices are heard and that we have resources available for them when they are struggling. So we've added some capacity in programs like FSTAF, which is great. but we're going to have to continue to do it. And really what I've been thinking about most is how do we create a culture that supports wellness across all of our populations on campus? Because in the past years, we've seen challenges that have affected not just the University of Colorado, but societally. And we have world recognized experts in health and wellness who do research on our communities. So we need to be able to tap into them more effectively and to have their knowledge. We need to be able to utilize the expertise of people like Sonia DeLuca Fernandez, who's come to the campus to be able to give us a better understanding of how we can become a more inclusive environment, a more welcoming environment, and one that supports people well. We'll do some things that we're going to experiment with just to give people an opportunity to be able to show appreciation for each other. So just this week and we're piloting it first on some of the SRS staff, is doing things like creating a recognition platform like Kazoo that allows people to be able to express gratitude for others, because people knowing that what they do is seen and appreciated helps to add value to the work. And then we need to do some longer term things to make sure that we're meeting the needs of our community. So I was extraordinarily grateful for the team that went through and were able to work on the CU South Boulder annexation. Why? It not only creates opportunities for us to be able to improve what the academic experience may be, but a portion of that is trying to be able to create affordable housing that will be available for CU faculty and staff in the future, because we recognize that we're living in a community that is really become expensive. So that if we can help make it a place where people have those opportunities to live and study and work in the same community, then those are extraordinarily important things. So it's going to be a combination of the short term and the long term to enable us to be able to create better wellness on campus. But we've got to look at it as a big picture thing and not just saying, hey, we hired an additional staff members into FSAP, therefore we're getting the job done. It really is, how do we infuse wellness into everything we do and make it part of our campus culture?
Thanks so much for that information, Pat. We're going to go ahead and just circle back to some information, actually, Pat, that you mentioned earlier. Are there any updates around the progress with the pay equity project? And if so, what are they?
So the Equal Pay for Equal Work project has been something that we've been looking at for a couple of years now. This was based on some legislation that got passed in Colorado. And it is legislation that was different than what previously existed, because there's always been kind of a non-discrimination requirement that existed federally. But Colorado really came through and created a statute that was based on analyzing people getting paid for similar type of work. And so there's been a really exhaustive analysis that was done through HR to try to identify what people are doing similar type of work across the campus and being able to create appropriate job categories so that we could make those comparisons and then determine whether or not there are inequities that are based upon race or gender so that those can be corrected. And I can't tell you how much time, energy, and effort really went into trying to do that thoughtfully and to get it right. But we're getting really close to the end of that process. And in January, there will be adjustments being made to people who have been identified as having been treated inequitably in their compensation because of their race or their gender. And that's an important thing. As we do that, I really want to be clear, though, that sometimes this is being phrased that if somebody is getting a pay adjustment because of the Equal Pay Act, that they're kind of the winners in the process and the people who didn't are losers in the process. And that's not the right way to be thinking about it, because what we're really trying to do is to take people who have not been compensated equitably before based upon the analysis and correct that inequity. and make sure that we're treating people and giving them what they're entitled to under the law, which is fair compensation based upon the jobs that they perform. We're still going to have to go through and look at our compensation generally to make sure that we're trying to remain competitive within the market, but you're going to see the adjustments coming through in January.
Awesome. Thank you, Pat, for that. More information and context is always helpful. And kind of on that note, can we hear from both Pat and Russ about how transparency has been enacted this semester and plans on continuing it moving forward? We have so many moving pieces on campus, so how are we doing that?
I'll jump in first. Over the last, I guess, 3 or 4 years, in response to requests from faculty and staff, I started a series of doing town halls with every school, college, and major directorate on campus to try to let people know where I think the campus is going, what our strategic and tactical objectives are, and also to hear from faculty, staff, and students in all the directorates. And that has been, I think, arguably pretty successful. I've also, Pat and I both meet with Boulder Faculty Assembly. We try to meet with leadership of staff council, et cetera. And it's a work in progress. Sometimes I think I'm communicating a lot and communicating clearly, but I'm trying to be very attentive to trying to understand how my information is being received by folks. But again, this open forum today is actually an example of what we're trying to do at the senior leadership level to really do our best to try to let folks know what's going on campus. And it's one of those, sometimes it's a tough dance to dance because sometimes people go, I don't care about that information. And other times people want to hear specific information. So what I think is important is that we get this constant feedback. And I think this periodic town hall format is actually quite good. So that's one of the things my office has been doing to try to promote transparency and trying to do so in a way. I think the town hall format is really good because some of the information we're transmitting is rather complex and multidimensional, and that's often tough to communicate in a written communication. So I think between the written communications and these opportunities to field questions and even tough questions, I think is really healthy for our community and something that I think Pat and I are committed to. And Pat, I'll kick it over to you because this was to both of us.
I won't add too much there, other than to recognize that it's really a constant balance, which is we're trying to provide as much meaningful information as we can. But we hear two things. Number one is, gee, we get so many communications. And number two, at the same time, and you're not communicating enough. So we're really trying to find the balance of being able to provide meaningful information to people about the topics that they care about, and to be able to show up and answer questions when we need to, and to use the various communication models that we have. What we need though is feedback, which is if people are saying we're not getting the information we need, please do let us know where we're falling short so that we can work with staff council and we can work with others to be able to bridge those gaps. Because if we hit you with communications nonstop every day, it's hard to focus on what matters, but we need to be told where the gaps exist, and we really need you to let us know.
Thanks so much for that information, Pat and Russ. We appreciate your dedication to being so transparent with the community. Our next question is, and our last question, what are your plans to continue to recognize staff at all levels and shifts on the campus? Russ, would you like to go first?
Oh, sure. Yeah, so if I understand the question, what are we doing to recognize staff at all levels? Well, a number of things is we're certainly trying to focus on pay equity and pay for that matter. It's a strategic priority of the chancellor and Pat's and mine to try to make sure that all of
think you're back, Russ.
Yeah, are we?
Russ, you froze there for a second. But-
Yeah, the power went out here. Sorry.
Oh,
I was
fun.
trying to find out if I'm still here.
Apologies, Ron. You're still here.
Yeah, okay, great. That threw me for a loop. The lights just went on. Yeah, and then there is a focus on particularly our lowest wage earning staff to try to make sure we're trying to move their salary levels up and trying to reward them with both work flexibility as appropriate and also with some financial recognition along the way. But one of the things we do recognize is we have one of the most productive staffs in the country. You have to bear that out. And again, this gets back to the earlier question about retaining staff. And we want to retain staff at all levels. And we're still doing our best to try to make sure that CU Boulder is an employer of choice. And then Pat alluded to some issues just in his most recent answer in terms of things that we're trying to do to make it more reasonable for people to live near where they're working. And our long-term strategic plan, again, is focusing on not only student housing, but staff and faculty housing along the way. Apologize for being a little disjointed on that one.
No worries, Russ. It's, just going with the flow. It's the name of the game. We're waiting for Pat to rejoin us. His power also went out, but we do have a question while Pat's rejoining that we wanted to ask you, Russ. So as we're in this winter time and the holidays are upon us, are there any holiday traditions that you and your family share, celebrate, ones you're looking forward to?
Yeah, so I'm blessed to have both of my children who moved back to Colorado, adults. I have 4 grandchildren, and the negotiation with all the in-laws is we get them all for Christmas. So we'll have them all over, and I'll have 2 3-year-olds and 2 1-year-olds exploring Christmas tree ornaments and all those things. And mostly it's just an opportunity to have family time. And I think it's important that we take a little time off, all of us, including me, to get together with family and then practice the traditions that all of you hold so dear. And our traditions are fairly family focused.
Awesome. Pat is back with us, so I just wanted to give him a second to see if he had anything to add about the recognition of staff at all levels, and then the question we just asked Russ about holiday traditions you're looking forward to.
Oh, thank you. And I apologize to everybody. The power went out in the building that I'm in for a few minutes, so I didn't just run away from the town hall. With respect to recognizing staff at all levels, that's a crucially important question. And one of the things that we're doing, for example, is trying to look at how we use the 1% retention pool that was granted by the regions to be able to recognize and retain frontline employees who we know have been more vulnerable. We also want to make sure that when we are doing things to create recognition in our community, that we're making sure everybody gets included. Jasmine brought to my attention the other day that when we did a staff council breakfast, that we may not have been able to get people who were off shift at the time that we did that. And so we need to be thinking about when we are trying to recognize people, making sure that those efforts reach across all of our populations, so that we're not leaving people out, because it ends up being hurtful when we can't bring people in. So that I've got an engagement team that's helping to advise me about what we can do in order to be able to recognize all of our populations, and to be in a position where we're really going to be in a place where some people who might otherwise feel like they're being overlooked will get attention that they deserve. So we're pretty committed to that. And as far as holiday traditions go, we just got back from visiting the in-laws in Texas, and that went okay. But really for Christmas, I'll be heading down to see my parents. And we don't have anything too dramatic, but my mom had a stroke a few years ago. And so having the opportunity just to be able to go down and have her spend time with the kids and us being able to share time as a family while she can really has been the focus of what we're doing. And what I hope everybody here does is have an opportunity to be able to relax, recharge, and spend some time with the people who you care about the most over the holidays, because it's really, really important. So please do.
Awesome. Thank you, Pat and Russ, for answering those initial questions. We'll hand it over to Andrew now to take us into Q&A.
Thanks, Jasmine. Our first question that we have from our folks here in the Q&A function. Again, please use that Q&A function if you have any questions. Our first question is for Russ. This questioner says, I very much appreciated the forum and support and protections for faculty related to their Jedi work. And this person asks, will campus put in place to protect staff who are centrally and critically involved in Jedi work in the absence of tenure type security? So essentially, I think the question is, those folks who don't have something like tenure, what protections are in place as they engage with that Jedi work?
Yeah, I mean, so this is a good question. It's a very serious question. I'll answer it in two ways. So first of all, I hope and I like to think that we do have those protections in place. So anybody who's engaged in Jedi work, if they're, for whatever reasons, and I can't think of what it would be, but for whatever reasons, if there would be any retaliation from a supervisor, that's a very, very serious offense, and that's something that would be adjudicated by our current practices. So those protections do exist. The other I'll take on that is the tenure doesn't really provide protections for doing Jedi work. And again, I'm trying to think in my mind what protection would be required while people are engaged in Jedi work. Tenure is a protection for something completely different. But faculty are employees, and they're held to a code of professional conduct as well. So I'm trying to, and we've been working on this for a number of years, is there's a professional code of conduct and professional expectations that we have for all of our employees. And tenure just provides protections not for being professional. It provides protections for people to have the freedom to conduct their scholarship and their teaching. And I would encourage you to go to HR and to look at the resources that are available that will allow you to understand the processes that you might need in the event that there's a conflict created as a result of conducting any Jedi work.
Okay, thank you. Question here for Pat. Should HR be attaching remote work requirements to job codes?
So the short answer is I don't think so. And the main reason is that there could be people who have a similar job code, but who have different kind of workplace expectations. And so the determination of what a particular employee's work status isn't determined so much by job code. It's determined by what the needs of the particular unit are and what the relationship is that's been determined by the supervisor and the employee. So work modality really gets assigned based upon the particular position that the person holds, not their job code. We need to be clear, and people need to understand what those expectations are so that they can meet them with their supervisors, but it's not something that should be done as categorically assigning things within the codes themselves.
All right, thank you. Question here for both Russ and Pat. What's the plan, or is there any new thinking regarding vaccine booster requirements? Are we going to be required to take a booster shot if we already have both of the first initial doses?
So I'll take first shot at this, which is that at the moment, we aren't saying that there needs to be a booster given by a particular date. What we've asked our science team to do, though, is to be able to look at vaccination and to be able to advise us, including what we're learning in light of the variants. Probably what we're going to need to do over time is to look at what's the duration for which a vaccine is available. And when people are reporting to us vaccine status, we're probably going to want to know that from a particular date. But going into the spring, I don't think that we're going to be communicating a requirement for you have to get a booster by a particular date. And really, that's something that we're going to have to analyze in light of the science as it evolves throughout the spring.
That's fair. Anything to add, Russ?
No, nothing to add. I think we'll just be heavily reliant on our science team on these things.
Another question for Russ and Pat. We're going to stay on that COVID train for a moment. This person asks, the rapid spit test that had been available previously could be available for employees currently experiencing symptoms to know whether they should work on site or not. This person says free testing sites often take 2 to 4 days, which could impact productivity. Is it possible to make those quick tests available again for staff as needed?
So I'll jump in on that. So currently we don't have plans to stand up testing centers like we had last fall when the vaccines weren't available and we were really facing what was a significant uncontrolled spread or potential uncontrolled spread of disease within the community, and testing was our number one strategy. What we are really doing now is that we do have rapid tests that are available for sale at Wardenburg. But the best advice that we can give people is to continue to maintain the safety standards that we have on campus, to mask in public spaces, which we've created as a campus policy. And if you're unwell, to avoid being on campus so that we don't have the unintentional spread. We continue to have testing available for non-symptomatic employees through Wardenburg at any point in time, where if they wanted to be able to get one of the PCR tests. And if people are symptomatic, and we would encourage them to get their care through their care providers so that they are able to make sure that they're getting the right medical advice that they need as well.
Okay. We're going to transition away from COVID here. A question for Russ. The University of North Carolina system, this person says, just invested nearly $100 million to build and manage online programs, specifically to reach adult learners. What's the status of CU in the online education space?
Yeah, that's a great question, and it's a complex answer that I'll give, but I'll try to make it as clear as possible. So some years ago, the CU system made a significant investment in trying to coordinate the system online efforts across campus. So there is the provision at the system level of some resources for some special programs that really would rely on regional marketing. That said, most of the online activities that occur within the CU system and are actually primarily housed at the campus level. So while significant investments have been made at both at the system and campus levels, I can tell you where we are on the Boulder campus. So we have a clear strategy, and part of it was in response to what the Board of Regents asked us to do. And that is, first and foremost, any program that we would deliver on campus, there are several priorities for us. Our top priority is really to deliver online programs that play to the strengths of our campus. So we have many strong national and internationally renowned programs here, and that's where we should try to focus most of our activity, because that's where I think we can provide the most value. Secondly, just so everyone understands that partly in response to what the CU system asked us to do and the Board of Regents asked us to do, Boulder's primary, not sole, Boulder's primary focus is on post-baccalaureate programs. So that would be, for example, professional master's programs, or the delivery of traditional courses that would culminate in a degree, professional learning outcomes, or professional learning credit for particular organizations, and non-traditional experiences that people could benefit from in our areas of strength. And those would mostly be directed at people in the knowledge economy who need current refreshing. So those are our top two priorities. Another close priority there is also undergraduate degree completion. So I know the schools and the colleges and continuing education are working very, very hard in identifying those students who are just a few credit hours short, and to try to provide them the opportunity to complete their degrees. And in that bucket is also making sure people can stay on track. Our lowest priority on campus, because the other two four-year campuses in the CU system, our lowest priority is fully online undergraduate degrees. That doesn't mean we can't do those, but right now our primary focus is on these post-bac or graduate degrees or professional development kind of experiences.
Thank you. Another question for Pat. In terms of staff and work environment quality, what's the administration doing to recognize the differing requirements of staff who must be on campus and those who have the flexibility to work from home?
Thanks, Andrew, for the question. And it was phrased in terms of staff and work environment equity. I'll tell you that I'm a little challenged by the framing of the question, because what we're trying to do is to be able to evaluate what's really needed to promote the mission of the university. And there will be some folks who, because of the nature of the work that they perform, that they need to be on campus. There are going to be other folks that, because of the nature of the work they perform, that they can be fully remote. That's not, in my mind, so much an equity issue, because it really pertains to the nature of the work that a particular role performs, and that we're not going to be able to create absolute equity about what the work expectations are for people who are working in different types of roles and different types of environment. What we really need to be able to do is to figure out how we are going to be able to support people better, no matter what their work modality is, because people who are on campus are going to have certain needs that they're going to have in order to be able to be successful in their environment. And people who are going to be either remote or hybrid are also going to have things that they need to be able to do to be able to succeed in their environment. And so part of what we're doing with that Future of Work Committee that I mentioned earlier is to be able to look at what are the support structures that we need to be able to create to ensure that people have the best opportunity to be successful in the work environment that they have, to be able, that is necessary to support the mission of the university. So I wouldn't want to be thinking about it in terms of people thinking, oh, that if I have a position that's a campus-based position, that somehow I'm being treated inequitably compared to somebody who is able to work remotely, because the functions of the positions may be differently. What we have to do is create the environment where people can be successful and be able to promote the mission of the university, no matter which modality they're working in.
All right, thank you. A question here for Russ. This person says, as I walk through campus, it's clear there are some students not following the mask requirements. Person asks, why are advisors being required to meet with students in person if students aren't acting in ways that show care for our health and wellness?
Yeah, so thanks for that question. First and foremost, I do want to stress I believe most of our students are following our protocols on campus, and we do have an indoor mask mandate. And I would suggest that if students are not wearing masks and the meeting is in a public space, then certainly the advisors, it's in their purview to request that students wear a mask if people would feel most comfortable doing that. And I think that's just like many folks who meet with students. I go over to my buildings adjacent to C4C, and rarely I see a student walking through C4C without a mask on, and I'll just ask them to put it on, and everybody's always cordially complied. So I think there's that kind of engagement that I think we all need to work with. I do understand that there's probably, it's the exception rather than the rule. Once in a while, people are just being a little obstinate or things like that. But I think a conversation is probably the best way to clean that one up. And then if that doesn't work, then engage a supervisor, and then we can move on from there. I think the good news is, and Pat alluded to this earlier, is the incidence of transmission of COVID on campus over the last semester has been extremely low. So whatever it is we're doing as a community is working. And I think a lot of that has to do with the high vaccination rates and the reality that I think most people are doing their best to be compliant with mask mandates as appropriate.
Thank you. Another question for Pat here. This person says more and more supervisors are expecting their staff members to attend meetings or reply to messages if they're taking vacation time or it's after office hours. Are there concrete strategies to inform a supervisor and staff about their rights and protecting that vacation time?
That's a really interesting question, and it makes me sad when I hear that people aren't being allowed to be able to take the time that they need in order to be able to be on vacation, or that they're being asked to respond at unreasonable times. There's been many wonderful things that have happened through the technology that we have, but the reality is that all of us are carrying supercomputers within our pockets, and that it's created different ways in which people have expectations about availability and when people should be able to work and not able to work. But it's not acceptable that if people are having unreasonable demands placed on them, either on vacation or outside of appropriate hours. So I think this is something that Russ and I probably need to get together and work with HR so that we're in a position that we can better frame some expectations to make sure that people are receiving the opportunities that they've earned to be able to take their vacation and to be able to rest. So the short answer to answer the question is, I don't have anything concrete in the pipeline right now, but we'll work on getting something concrete in the pipeline to be able to communicate those expectations.
Great, thank you. A question here for Russ. Do you have plans to increase staffing for the many departments and programs that lost partial or full positions and are now extremely short-staffed? This person asks. If so, do you feel you have a time frame on that?
Yeah, so let me answer that's a great question, by the way. So I do know that as a result of the budget cuts that were required as a result of the financial impact that was exacted by the COVID pandemic, that puts stress on the whole system. And I know there are a lot of units that, in order to balance the budget, that there's some units that are arguably shorthanded. So yes, I don't personally make, in most of the units, I don't personally have the authority, nor should I have the authority to increase or decrease staffing. That's usually up to a vice chancellor, associate vice chancellor, or a dean. Where I am involved, however, is working closely with Pat O'Rourke and Carla and Ann Schmeezing, Carla Hoa and Ann Schmeezing, to really attend to the financial well-being of the institution, which includes making sure that we have a robust student recruiting operation and really focusing on student retention so that we can recover financially. The signs look good for that. And as we recover financially, then I think individual units then will be in a position to have the finances to go ahead and start to replace some of the positions that may have been lost or reorganized along the way. I don't have a really clear crystal ball, but my sense is that compared to actually many of our peers, we're recovering quite nicely. But a recovery from a blow that we took, it was a $200 million financial hit, that it'll probably take, I'm just, don't hold me to these exact years, but I'm guessing a full recovery might not be really realized in between 2 and 5 years. 2 would be remarkably optimistic. 5 would be on the other end of the optimism spectrum. So I'm thinking, 2-3 years. And I also think there might be some opportunities for us to rethink how we're doing some things on campus to try to alleviate the stress that I know many of you are under.
Absolutely. Because we are a little bit past time here, this will be our last question for Pat. Regarding the Colorado Equal Pay for Equal Work Act that just went into place, what about pay equity among similar staff positions and job classifications across campus and the CU system? Is HR looking into disparities in pay that may not be covered by that Pay Equity Act?
So I think I have the question, which is, first, this is a campus-based effort, and each of the campuses is looking at what they're doing to be able to comply with the Equal Pay Act, and it's separate from whether or not somebody might be performing similar work on a different campus or at system administration. So we're trying to get that taken care of. But as I mentioned earlier, this won't be the end of what we need to be able to do to analyze our compensation. What we have right now is a compliance and legal requirement to be able to create the job codes that I talked about earlier, to be able to analyze whether or not some of our staff are being paid inequitably because of race or gender. But that doesn't mean that we can stop there, and that we're going to have to be performing other compensation analyses going forward to be able to make sure that we're looking at things like salary compressions, to be able to look at what the market holds, and to be able to try to make sure that we're being competitive. So the Equal Pay Act is really designed to allow us to be able to address a particular requirement at this moment, and we're going to be making those adjustments to meet our legal obligations. But separate and apart from what our legal obligations are, we really also need to be looking at what we're doing as an employer generally to be able to make sure that we're able to attract and retain the talented staff that makes the university work. So that work will continue.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you to our panelists today. Thank you to Staff Council who was able to organize this for us all today. Thank you all for being able to tune into today's Staff Council. We will now end the call.